Well, hello, dear listener, and thank you for downloading another episode of the Endless Coffee Cup. I'm your host, Matt Bailey. I hope you're having a good day. If you've been listening to the first series where Greg and I talked about defining social media marketing, that was a part one. It was divided into a part two. And if you listen to the first episode of that, you may have noticed that it did cut off pretty abruptly. And of course, we weren't thinking about how we were going to divide this into multiple parts. So when you pick up today's episode, you may notice that it starts right in the middle of the conversation. So you may want to go back into the last few minutes of part one just to get the context for what Greg is setting up as he talks about social media marketing and how to measure that. All right. Well, now that that housekeeping is out of the way, please enjoy Defining Social Media Marketing, Part 2. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Facebook because they are constantly under fire. They are constantly crossing the line. And now I think everything that's coming out with advertising and ad tech being so fraught with fraud and Facebook being one of the primary players of that, it's going to be very interesting to see how
Meanwhile,
that happens.
Instagram is still growing. And so here's one of those funny situations where, Facebook acquired Instagram, but, I can see not too far off where Instagram is actually going to end up passing Facebook in importance in social media marketing. A huge number of people already use it. It already has a huge install base of social media influencers. Yeah. Many of them started off uploading photos, and they're wandering around trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves.
Welcome to Endless Coffee Cup, a regular discussion of marketing news, culture, and media for our complex digital lifestyle. Join Matt Bailey as he engages in conversation to find insights beyond the latest headlines and deeper understanding for those involved in marketing. Grab a cup of coffee, have a seat, and thanks for joining.
So is social media going to help you do that or not? And if it does, great. Then what was the return on investment for the money that you put into that social media campaign or that social media advertising or that influencer marketing campaign, however you slice it and dice it, here's how much I spent. By the way, if you want to hire Kim Kardashian to chew on your vitamin in a pose on Instagram, she'll only charge you $1 million. And that makes perfect business sense if you sell multiple millions of dollars of vitamins. If that works for you, great. But, your job is not to, pay through the nose to do influencer marketing or social media marketing or social advertising, whatever. Or the new buzzword is social commerce. I'm going to have social commerce next week. And it's like, terrific. So how many cars are you going to sell with that? And once you use that as your anchor, to your objective, your goal, then all of a sudden, a lot of the silliness in social media marketing falls away. And some of the serious opportunities actually begin to emerge because there are times where social media marketing pays its way. Unfortunately, most people don't set that as its objective.
Yeah, it goes right back to how are we going to use this, and rather than jumping at the platform first. And that is such a critical question, and it gets right back to what we talked about at the beginning. Is one of the biggest questions is how do I justify this? How do I rationalize the time and the investment that we're making in that? And you're establishing a very clear connection between business goals and here is our purpose here. And without that, yeah, we're not impacting anything. But what I like is how social media, I call it a distribution multiplier. Because if I'm doing content marketing, if I'm doing other things, social allows me to distribute it across a wide variety of channels in a wide variety of media, and I can target different networks based on what type of reaction do I want? What do I want people to do? For example, if I want someone to click through, if I'm putting a strong call to action and there's a click through, I may not want to use Instagram because it doesn't allow me to put a link in the post. Whereas I might use Facebook and LinkedIn because I can put a link in the post and I can put a strong call to action and make that happen. And so that's what I do love about using social media as part of that larger strategy of developing those distribution mechanisms, but also here's the purpose. Here's what I want people to do when they see it, and thinking of it in terms of that. And now I've got an immediate measurement based on my goal for the distribution and what's happened with it.
Works particularly well with the kind of products or services that people like, wearing on their sleeve. There's certain fashions that say, look what I'm dressed in. This is the latest sneaker, right? It doesn't work for all products and services. I won't name the brand because that would be wrong. Also, I think I'd be violating an NDA. But there was a brand that came to us who wanted a social media marketing campaign for their jock itch solution. And I had to go back to them and say, you know what? Nobody is talking about their jock itch problem on social media. And so they're not going to tout, oh, look, I found a solution to it. It's like, you're going to have to find a different way to market that puppy because, it's not something people want to brag about. They may want to brag about the new restaurant they've discovered or the latest movie they've just seen or, the new car they are, just purchased, the travel destination that they just came back from. There are a lot of things that work really well, but it's not everything.
It doesn't fall under conspicuous
consumption. Basically. So again, remember the social part of social media. Do you want everybody to know?
Right.
That?
There's so many areas that you could go into.
Maybe we should just move on in the outline.
Okay. Oh, yeah, things that people have tried to make social that aren't social.
Now, anti-social marketing actually could be the new thing. Never mind.
All right. So what's interesting, Greg, is part of this is we have to give a little history of early social media channels. And what I think is interesting about the history is that, and you alluded to this with what Facebook has done, there used to be distinctive categories of social media. And those distinctions are being eliminated or adopted by every other platform. I think the greatest example of this is that we've seen recently is TikTok forced Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They all reacted by adding the features of TikTok.
And before that, Snapchat had everyone ripping off their stories idea. So, if you've got a really cool feature, you've got about a 3-week head start. And then don't assume that it's just your direct competitors who are going to try to knock it off. All the indirect competitors are watching too, because again, it is an incredibly fluid area. So, Instagram stunned everybody in the fall of last year by announcing it was no longer merely a square photo sharing site. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you may be headed off into Reel, which is merely a TikTok knockoff, and you may think that's your future. I'm wondering who's going to backfill and say, well, we are now the square picture, photo sharing site because, when the elephants are stampeding, the monkeys realize they got to get up into the trees and get out of the way. They don't want to be trampled underground. But then you know what? They can come back down later and pick through the remains. And so the thing that really illustrates this the best is Vine died everyone assumed that 6-second long looping videos were dead too. And that was before TikTok came along. So the answer is maybe it was before its time, maybe it wasn't monetized well. There are a lot of reasons something can come and go. Stay tuned.
And it's funny because my kids are sort of in that odd spot where they were almost too young for Vine, but they loved it. And when TikTok came along, they're just like, it's fine. It's no big deal. We've seen this before. So... And it's interesting, these early classifications. So, like, the first one was a social network, which I think would be more defined by I'm building networks of people. I am friends, connections. Facebook and LinkedIn are the two big ones. I think it's interesting, too, when you chart the growth of both, that it's just this slow, steady increase. Conversely, I think LinkedIn is it's almost a mirror image of Facebook, that they have had slow, steady, reliable growth. They've made intelligent acquisitions, and the focus is a professional network. And it's almost become a self-policing network, because if you try to post anything political or try and post anything, you get called out on it. And people are saying, we don't want political content here. This is business content. And they acquired lynda.com, which was an online professional development education, and now that's incorporated. So, you're building connections. But what I love about LinkedIn, it's now this is your professional profile that's available to the world, and it's become one of the number one spots for B2B selling and B2B advertising because of the nature of the network.
And another one of those categories, and this is how I think Facebook got away with redefining YouTube as in another category, was video sharing. And in the early days, that meant YouTube and Vimeo. Okay, they're over there. We're Facebook. We're LinkedIn. We're over here. Different categories altogether. And that was fine until Vimeo shrank and starved. I mean, it's not gone, but it's not the contender it used to be. YouTube grew and grew and grew, and everyone got envious, and so suddenly they started adding video elements. And then one of the interesting things that YouTube did was, because they were monetized with advertising, to them, longer videos offered a chance to put more ads in a video. And so they changed their algorithm in 2012, in the fall of 2012, to emphasize what they called watch time. And by going the long video route, they basically opened the door up for people with short videos. And that included Vine. 6 months later, it included Instagram. Lately, it's included TikTok. So again, the field has zigged, the field has zagged. It is still pretty robust, but boy, almost everybody, even LinkedIn now says, oh, we have video too.
Yeah, that's right. You can upload anything anywhere. And this same thing. So like the next category was microblogging, which it's the big example is Twitter, which started out as 140 text characters. Well, I can upload video. I can upload images. And now I think we're even pushing well beyond 140 characters. So this is a great example of changing functionality to accommodate, well, this is what people want to do. So, we're going to do that. And the advantage is, if you don't want to write paragraphs of content on a blog, you can write a couple sentences and publish it on a third-party platform. People can integrate with it. It's millions of people contributing, and if you just watch a Twitter stream, there's no context to it. Unless you're following a hashtag, and even still, I notice, even if I follow a hashtag, there's still no context to a lot of what's happening. It's a stream of consciousness, and that consciousness is the world on Twitter, and that's what you see. But I think it has been a very valuable tool, I think, for journalists, for writers, I used to like it with politicians, but now I think it should be taken away and they should be sent back to their rooms.
Well, and then there's the category that went away, and that was photo sharing. I used
Yeah.
Flickr extensively when I was promoting the search engine strategies conferences. We would take lots of photos at those
Right.
conferences, and boy, if we could get them up that night to Flickr, we were doing okay. And then Flickr,
Yeah.
they too wanted to add short videos. And their user base revolted. No, we're for photo sharing, not video sharing. And, it is amazing to watch what's going on Instagram now because, pardon me, they started off as a photo sharing mobile app. Okay, so their wrinkle was we're an app,
Right.
we're for mobile devices. Flickr was a desktop location, and, the coming and going of mobile over desktop is a sea change that everybody had to weather. And now Instagram is saying, oh, well, not so much anymore. So again, the whole concept of photo sharing has morphed, and it really now comes down to what are we doing with this? And
Yeah.
I will tell you,
Right.
I've run experiments recently, including with a guy named, what was it? Matt Bailey, I think. I think he's with a site Logic let's put it this way. I could be
It'll come to you.
confusing him with someone I know better. But we added photos and videos to press releases that we distributed on behalf of, a new training service that he had to offer. And what we found is the photos turned up in Google News results along with the headline. And so the photo actually helped capture the eye to the headline to get people to click to it when they found it in Google News results. But the videos that we attached to the same press release, in other words, there was a photo and a video. It was a multimedia press release. The videos surfaced in Google, universal search results in the early days around the keywords that we had targeted. And so with the ability to pick and choose, and Google News picking photos and Google picking videos, it was useful to have both with the press release.
Yeah. There's also a little cottage industry around photos, Greg, and I found this out from my daughter, the photographer, that she takes a lot of the photos that she shoots. She does a lot of nature, a lot of outdoor photography, and she uploads them to stock photography sites. And she is making a good bit of money on a monthly basis selling her photos as stock photos. And it's interesting because they create a little social site. You can follow other photographers. They initiate conversations. So it fits all the definitions of a social media site that's being monetized and allowing up-and-coming photogrophers to get exposure for their work.
I rarely try to declare anything dead in the world. Maybe
Exactly.
smoke signals are dead. I don't think they're being used that much anymore as a medium. Possibly Morse code, although every now and then it keeps coming back. But by and large, it morphs, it changes, it adapts, it comes back. Second Life, which was once upon a time considered a virtual world, is no longer with us. Thank you very much. But pardon me, what is the metaverse?
Like, we've tried this before.
I think I saw this movie.
Yes. And yes, we need to go back and look at all what didn't work in Second Life, because I guarantee you they're going to make the same mistakes, same things. All this is going to come up. Yeah, it all comes around. The one thing and you brought this up earlier, is blogs as a social media. And absolutely, it fits all the criteria of social media. And blogs are my sweet spot, because when WordPress came out in 2003, I was at a digital agency, and immediately, so the bread and butter of the company was building websites. And when I saw WordPress come out, I'm taking it and showing to people, I'm like, this is going to change everything. This is going to democratize the programming, which is the most time-consuming thing, is to create a content management system within the website, the database. Like, this is done with a click of a button, and now all you do is make it pretty. And so it was open source, and now today WordPress is 40% of the websites on the internet.
Yep.
40% of billions of websites. So it's not just WordPress. There was Typepad, Blogger, LiveJournal were there long before. What WordPress did was make it easy so that non-technical people could start a blog. And it simplified everything. And then, I love to point to an example is it also gave publishers, reporters, journalists who could go independent and create their own thing. Great example is the Huffington Post. It started as we're going to go independent, do our own thing, and now it is one of the top news sources.
Yeah, I too am addicted to blogs. There are some things that have disappeared, things like social bookmarks. Once upon a time, everything had to get shared to the delicious. And then all of a sudden, it became a feature of your, my Chrome browser. Do you want to make this your favorite? And so again, be careful of categories, because if they are just clever features, other people can knock them off quickly and will. And then your raison d'etre sort of needs to get reinvented, or you fade away into history.
You know what I miss? RSS feeds. I miss my RSS reader.
Well, that's another one that came and went, isn't it?
It is. I think it went away because you didn't get the ads.
It went away because Google acquired the leading one in the category and then didn't know what to do with it, because you're right. How do I monetize this? Oh, well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that was my front page, was all my RSS feeds, catch up on what everyone's written and posted, and go about the day.
Now, that brings us to the blender. Since we've already alluded to it, is this a feature? Is it a platform? Is it a category? The answer is, well, it depends. Yeah. That means any good social media marketing needs to pay a little bit of attention to the lessons of history, because, okay, maybe it doesn't repeat itself, but man, things come back again and again that seem awfully familiar. And so there are lessons that, you can learn even if they aren't exact. So the guys who may be the poster children for evolution of their definition of who they are and what they're about are Facebook and Instagram. And, some of that was forced on them. I would say the early days, Facebook's first crisis was when it discovered it was a desktop application and the iPhone was turning everything into mobile first world, and Facebook didn't know what to do next.
Well, and this is, I think, one of those things that placed Facebook at the right time, in the right place. Because, yes, prior to that, they were a desktop application, but now you have the rise of the iPhone. You have increase in data coverage. You have lower data costs. More people are getting phones. The phones have more features. You have the touch interface. I mean, you just look at the convergence of all of these factors, and as soon as Facebook creates this mobile version that, it just happens to have a camera. It just happens to know where you are. It just, all of these things, no wonder they became mobile first. It significantly increased, well, I will say, the data they could collect, as well as it added more features for people to be able to use it on the go. And I think there was, now we have Facebook Live, all these things that people could upload and interact while it was with them. And that 2012, I think, is a huge year in terms of everything turning mobile and active. And that's where I think I think that's the beginning of what I call our social experiment.
And then it was followed 3 years later in 2015. Mark Zuckerberg, came down from Mount Olympus or wherever he goes for his inspiration and said, okay, time to become a video first platform. And oh, by the way, not just Facebook, but we're going to do this to Instagram, or we're going to do this to everything else that we've acquired. And the key moment in that epiphany that he was having was when he decided that if you have native video uploaded to Facebook, it's going to rank higher than the YouTube video that had been shared on Facebook up until that point. Up until that point, the biggest video sharing done on YouTube was to Facebook. Facebook tried to cut them off at the pass and said, yeah, you can do that if you want to, but we're going to rank it low. But if you upload natively to Facebook, that will rank well. And the wars began.
Well, and that's happening now, I believe, with Instagram and TikTok, that if you upload TikTok videos to Instagram, and I think even on Reddit. We didn't even talk about Reddit. How can we not talk about Reddit?
That's probably because it's its own category, right?
It is. And I think it's the most popular social media that isn't talked about, and I think
no.
That way.
Let's put that. So there was Reddit before Condé Nast and Reddit after Condé Nast. Okay, the reason nobody talked about it before Condé Nast was because it was how do I say this politely? Cesspool? Oh, okay.
That was the word
they
I was
talk
thinking
about
of.
that out in Ohio? Okay, all right. I thought.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
All right, fine.
Absolutely.
But Condé Nast has cleaned up their act. It's now a very, very, very interesting social medium that can be mined for ideas, as well as interacting with people there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and everything is in subgroups, so there are small cesspools still there. However, you can find groups of like-minded people. You can create your own custom feed based on subtopics that you want to follow. And I follow, stuff like healthy eating and vegetarian recipes and quick and easy recipes. I am amazed at the content that I find on a daily basis that I'm save that because it's highly relevant. It's what I'm interested in. The app just makes it. Don't even use the website. Use the app or even a third party.
Well, here we are sort of charting the message of convergence. All the platforms are converging. Everything is interchangeable. You can find everything everywhere, which isn't true. And I saw this firsthand in the last couple of weeks, because in the last couple of weeks, two things happened that I think are going to chart a divergence going forward, as opposed to a convergence. And the first one happened at New Fronts, which is, I think the 11th year in a row that they've held this. It's sponsored by the IAB, which is followed 2 weeks later by Upfronts, which is normally where they sell TV time. And, for a decade, those were two different events. You focused on digital advertising in one and TV advertising in the other. And for the first time this year, YouTube was in both places. And the reason they were in both places is because they still have a digital advertising story to tell, and it's a fairly compelling one. And what they focused on was their creator economy. They are spending more than $10 billion a year to fund content creators making content on YouTube. And most of that comes through ad share, but they are increasingly experimenting with whatever you want to call it, the kind of influencer marketing programs, although it's currently limited to really, really, really large influencers. But most of it is ad sharing. So they still have a good story to tell, on that end of the spectrum. But the reason they turned up at Upfronts is because the fastest growing channel on YouTube is connected TV. Now,
yes.
I mean, now guess what?
That's how we watch it.
YouTube has a presence on connected TV, a big presence. Who doesn't? Facebook doesn't. Who doesn't? TikTok doesn't. Instagram doesn't. All the other social media platforms currently do not have a play on connected TV. Now, if this were a minor platform, okay, fine, round off error. But when it is YouTube's fastest growing platform, and there's over 130 million unique viewers just in the United States, which is bigger than a Super Bowl audience, watching YouTube on connected TVs, then pardon me, that's the big divergence, which I think is one of the reasons why Facebook or Meta has spun off into, oh, we're into the metaverse now. And at their event, at the New Fronts, they showcased an advertiser, Wendy's Hamburgers, who had created the Wendy's verse. And I looked, and it was kind of like, okay, Wendy's has a... Were they in Second Life? I don't know. Yeah,
I think they were.
Okay, they're back with virtual burgers. I can't download a virtual burger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe you can download an NFT of a virtual burger and own that.
But all of a sudden, ledger. I think what we are about to see is one of the big players zigging, other big players zagging, other players sort of left in between, trying to pick up the crumbs that are left behind. Let's put it this way. You and I are about to write a chapter in a book that ought to be rewritten in about 18 months.
Hey everyone, this is Matt, and thanks for listening. Just a quick break in the middle of the podcast here to let you know there's a couple ways that you can connect with us. The first is learn.sitelogic.com. That's the learning site where you can see courses on analytics, courses on digital marketing across paid search, SEO, multiple disciplines. And then also, you can connect with us on Slack. Go to Slack if you're there and look for us at endlesscoffeecup.slack.com. Connect with us. I'd love to hear from you. Hear what ails you in the realm of digital marketing. Are there courses you need, information that you'd like to hear, or maybe some past guests that you'd like to hear more from? Thanks again for being a listener of the Endless Coffee Cup, and I look forward to hearing from you. Well, it could be rewritten as soon as we know what happens with Elon Musk and Twitter.
I don't even want to guess at that.
That statement there will date this podcast faster than anything else. Whatever happens with his acquisition of Twitter. Here's a question, Greg, and this is a tree falling in the forest question. If I watch YouTube on connected TV, is it still social media?
It depends on what happens next.
Because I can't leave a comment.
Here's what's happening next. Because YouTube has already started the experiments on social commerce. And so if the video that you're watching includes a car, and if you can click on a link and it will take you to the car dealer, where you can then sign up for a test drive. No, you're not downloading the car from your television. But I'll tell you what, you are no longer just supporting what you are watching with advertising, which, oh, by the way, YouTube sells a bundle of and can monetize with the advertising. Mm-hmm. But they are increasingly experimenting with social commerce. And one of the interesting things that they're doing is they're pulling their YouTube stars or creators or influencers, whatever you want to call them, into the game. So how would you like to have the star of, let's say Mr. Beast, driving your car or giving away your car in his next promotion? So That's today you may look at it and say, I don't get it. But I remember, I'm that old, when Ted Turner brought up a lot of old movies, and people thought, Ted, what are you doing? These are old movies. He said, well, I'm going to create the Turner Classic Movies channel. Why? Who wants to watch old movies? And the answer is, if you've got the content, guess what? The eyeballs will follow. We are at that moment again, where YouTube has got more than one horse in this game. And a lot of other people are going to have to figure out how they zig or zag next.
Well, and that's great. I mean, I love it because, YouTube, when I look at what we do in the evenings, when we sit down in the couch to watch television, one of the first places we go is YouTube. We love a couple of British shows. We can't access it any other way, but it's on YouTube. And so we're watching long-form video content on YouTube through the TV. And that it speaks to it. And yes, I do now remember seeing some ads that had interactive elements.
Yeah, and when it
Go
comes to
learn more
optimizing those videos, because that's the other game that I play, it turns out now your thumbnail is crucial. Because the title and thumbnail
Yes.
are the only things people will see on a connected TV. They will not see the snippet of the description that you'll see in a smartphone or a desktop device. And so, again, the nature of the game shifts to, part of it is still writing a good optimized headline, but part of it is now creating a thumbnail image for your video that people can look at and say on their connected TV and say, ooh, I want to watch that.
Absolutely. That is everything. I can say that, when we're deciding, it's that thumbnail. The thumbnail and title are everything to that decision. Oh, fantastic stuff. Fantastic. All right. This next section, I think I'll call it the spit and facts section.
Spit 'em fast.
Because it is it's top social media channels today, which is hilarious. This gets you made fun of that title.
I could have said this hour, but today seemed
Yeah. There we go. I not so much a fact, but here's where we are right now. Facebook isn't growing. They have the same target audience of the generation that started using it. The kids have moved on. It is now, I would call it the legacy social network. It is, as you said, it's endured. However, with privacy, content, fake news, hate content, I think they have a bi-monthly appointment before a congressional panel. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Facebook because they are constantly under fire. They are constantly crossing the line, and now I think everything that's coming out with advertising and ad tech being so fraught with fraud and Facebook being one of the primary players of that, it's going to be very interesting to see how
Meanwhile,
that happens.
Instagram is still growing. And so here's one of those funny situations where, Facebook acquired Instagram, but I can see not too far off where Instagram is actually going to end up passing Facebook in importance in social media marketing. A huge number of people already use it. It already has a huge install base of social media influencers. Yeah. Many of them started off uploading photos and they're wandering around trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves. But, those who could migrate to video are discovering that Reels is now getting like 20% of the time people are now spending on Instagram is spent watching Reels, which is their knockoff of TikTok. Stories is their knockoff of Snapchat. So, somehow or other, I suspect Instagram is the meta platform that will continue to play a pretty significant role in social media marketing today.
Yeah. And I alluded to this before. LinkedIn, you can't leave them out. They are the largest business-to-business social network. If you're trying to do anything business-to-business, LinkedIn is it. There is not even a close competitor to LinkedIn.
And then we have YouTube. And you know what? YouTube is, I don't know which metaphor I want to use, but let's put it this way. They are the underdog, redheaded stepchild that some people don't even classify as a social medium that actually is taking off. It is growing. According to the Pew Research Center, it's actually more people in the United States will visit YouTube in a month than will visit Facebook. And we're talking, that's not a bad market to be number one in. And oh, by the way, similar things are happening in other countries around the world. And it's also one of the interesting things that YouTube is doing is saying, yeah, we're monetizing our content creators, which is something Facebook never wanted to share with anybody. And we're sharing over $10 billion a year. So go ahead, announce a 100 million, influencer fund. Yay. That's noise level compared to the 10 billion that we fork out to. More than 2 million creators are making a living creating YouTube videos. It is an economy to itself. So, yeah, I expect
Absolutely.
YouTube will not only be around longer than today, but they're making the strategic investments in content creation, as well as being on the new emerging channel, CTV, as well as being a dominant player on the old channels, the mobile platforms. And yeah, to the extent that anyone goes there anymore on desktop devices.
Yeah. Well, number 5 on our list, Greg, is Twitter. And having talked about Elon Musk already, maybe by the time the book comes out, we'll know what happens. Now, 2 things. One, I thought Twitter was going to die in the mid-20-somethings, but with the election in 2016, Twitter was Donald Trump's primary media platform, and I thought for sure Twitter would die, but I'm going to put it on Donald Trump. He resurrected Twitter and made it a top 5 social platform. That's where his conversation was. So a lot of people, I think, went there, and that reinvigorated it, because you just even look on Google Trends, the amount of people who look at Twitter, it was going down. It goes back up at that point. It made Twitter relevant again. Now Elon Musk is doing it, and what I think he has brought up something that, to me, Greg, I'm just getting popcorn and I'm watching this movie. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care how it goes, but Elon pressing Twitter on the subject of bots is just a wonderful showdown, because he's asking the question I think advertisers should have been asking from day one: what am I buying? How many real people are on this platform, and how many bots are there pretending to be people? This is what advertisers should have been asking a decade ago, and he's now asking it. And I'm just gonna.
Donald Trump also played a role in what I think is going to be the rise of TikTok, because if you remember, he tried to break them up. He tried to ban them in the United States. He hated them because they were pranking him by signing up to attend rallies and then not turning up. So he would then turn up in a location that was empty. And one of the interesting things is it is not particularly well used by social media marketers now. And part of that is because I'm busy. But one of the things that TikTok has just done, again, within the last several weeks, is they've announced TikTok Pulse, which is going to be their way of providing an ad revenue share to their top 4% of their content creators. And 2 weeks later, they announced what is called Branded Mission, which is their way of helping influencers who have more than 1,000 followers monetize their content. So a high-low strategy, if you will. Wow. And, ironically, all the opposition they got from Trump back in 2020 seems that would have made them cool.
All the way.
It's where all the cool kids hang out now.
Well, conversely, the next on the list, Greg, is Snapchat. And this one, I had to explain to my daughter why I would not allow her on Snapchat years ago. And I explained the history of Snapchat, that it was created for one purpose and one purpose only. And any platform that deletes images within seconds after being viewed. And I told her, I'm like, no, I don't care if your friends are on this platform. You will not be on the platform. Now, this is still many years removed from the founders falling out, suing each other. I read all the court documentation. I mean, it's very clear. But this is when my oldest daughter, first complained, why am I the one with the dad in digital marketing? Because all her friends can get away with it, and their parents don't know anything. But I have to have the dad who says no. I don't know why Snapchat is even considered top 10. There's still people on it, still people using it. I don't understand
I think
why.
It is appropriate for social media marketers who are targeting Gen Z. So if I have
Yeah.
even a college or university who is trying to get high school seniors to consider them as a place to spend way too much money to go to college, because boy, college tuition is rising faster than inflation. But anyhow, if I'm trying to persuade, that target audience, high school juniors and seniors, that I'm the cool place to go to college at, boy, I better have a Snapchat game.
Yeah. Which is interesting because TikTok's the cool place. But I still don't, it's where you're at. But what's interesting is what didn't make this list, and I'm adding one, Greg. I'm going to add I'm going to add WeChat.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
WeChat has over 1.2 billion users. And WeChat, I call it the Swiss Army knife of apps because you can use it for messaging. You can use it for payment, shared payment, payment to restaurants, payment to friends. You can do order takeout and delivery. You can do ride sharing, bicycle sharing, check out library books, access public transportation. That's just some of what you can do with WeChat. And by the way, it's a messaging app. So it is largely in China and in Asia, but I mean, I've got it on my phone and I use it to message lots of friends and acquaintances in the area. And that is the app as soon as you get out of the Western world. So that's when I felt like we need to add that there because that's a significant app.
It is. And there are others. I happen to be very fond of Pinterest. And so, this is not an exhaustive list. This just happens to be a list that the folks at Social Media Today compiled just a month ago and said, these are the top 7 that social media marketers are currently using. And I think one of the messages you and I agree on, although we don't agree on everything, is that whatever list you have today, make sure that it's adjustable and flexible because you'll need to change it tomorrow.
Yeah. And like we talked about, a lot of this is going to depend on your audience, who you're trying to reach. Maybe Reddit is a great place. If you're trying, I was looking the other day, I was doing some link building, creating, developing content to teach link building, and I'm seeing Reddit links pop up. And you want to talk about a high domain value. Wow. I was really shocked at how valuable those links were in contributing to a profile. So, and those are good links. Most other social media isn't really able to provide that kind of a link to your content. So that gets into cross-platforming and how I'm able to integrate some of this into some
before
other
we move on to cross-platform, which is a huge issue, one of the other places that I look at for the list of social media platforms that I need to go learn about because I think I know about them all, but I don't, is I subscribe to the New York Times. And one of the things that the New York Times has is a little feature that says, would you like to, share this article? Yeah, fine. So you can share it via email or Facebook or Twitter or, LinkedIn and Reddit. Okay, those are all options. There are a couple here, though, that we haven't mentioned yet. One is Telegram, and you can now share your articles in the New York Times to your network in Telegram, or WhatsApp. That's the other option that you have. So, so the answer is again, who's your target audience? What are you hoping they're going to do next? Ultimately, what do you want them to do down the road? And again, keep your peripheral vision open.
Yeah, I can't stress enough WhatsApp. As soon as you get outside of the U.S., WhatsApp is, I believe it's the number one app in the rest of the world. They use it for everything.
And the people that I've been working with lately in Ukraine are using Telegram extensively. It's one of the few social media that can reach into Russia where they've been blocked on a number of the main social platforms. They can get their message to Russian families, your son's been taken prisoner, you should oppose the war, using Telegram.
Oh, wow. Crazy. Tell you what, Greg, we're 2 hours in.
Well, you had said, what happens if we have 10,000 words? I'm going for 15.
You're going for 15? All right. Tell you what, let's finish this last section here of cross-platform.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
pace
do that.
ourselves.
And
Okay.
yeah. And then if we need to come back and finish up, we'll do that. All right. So back to cross-platform content. We jumped in and amended our list here with some from additional channels here. But as I said, if I can integrate social in a way that helps me with SEO, in a way that helps my blog, in a way that helps other platforms, but ultimately I want them to converge onto something. So if I'm launching a new product,
it turns out, Matt, you and I have both worked on a campaign that we don't think we were working on the campaign. So what I'm going to tell you is a case study that you know intimately that you will think, but I didn't do that. The answer is, oh, yeah, we did. And the answer is the New Media Academy, which is based on the United Arab Emirates. You and I are both instructors there. So call it what you will. You know, We're part of the content creation community. We play a role somehow, occasionally. I'm certainly teaching tomorrow. I think you taught today.
Yep. I think we're peeking out from behind the curtain and waving to the audience.
I'm looking
as
at
the
you,
main
students.
Talent is on the stage.
Okay, so interestingly enough, when the New Media Academy was launched 2 years ago, and it was launched, frankly, in June of 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, thank you very much, they did a couple of things that were cross-platform. They created a YouTube channel. They created a Facebook page. They created Instagram accounts. They created Twitter accounts. You know, basically, they were trying to let, students in North Africa and the Middle East realize that, we're teaching in English because a couple of the instructors here are English speaking. But we're focused on bringing all these digital marketing skills here. You can get your certificates, you can get your advanced degrees, whatever. All right, fine. So when they launched their YouTube channel, obviously it had 0 views. And when they launched their Facebook page and they started uploading videos there, it had 0 views. Today, their YouTube channel has 140 million views. Those videos have gotten 8 million engagements, and they have 1.7 million subscribers. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm making this a case study because, whoa, not bad for
Greg,
2 years later, right? By the way, let's look at their Facebook presence. And I'm just going to look at their videos because that was all I was sort of focused on. They obviously post text content and content with images. But just their videos have 79.2 million views, 2.9 million engagements, and they've gotten 643,000 page likes, which is the equivalent to a subscriber. And so you've got to say,
hey,
do we crash the system?
I think so. Just as you launched in, it just froze up, and I was like, oh, no.
Maybe I said the magic word. I don't know.
Yeah, wow.
Well, do you want to call a halt here, or do you want to keep going?
Let's tell you what. Yeah, we're right up on the 2-hour mark, and so let's see what we got here. And if we want to come back, and I think social media advertising was the next big thing. My only main point that I wanted to get into with cross-platform is I wanted to get into the trend of using social media to build a community that I own on my platform.
Bingo. And that was what I was going to segue into. How did the New Media Academy pull off this coup?
Yeah.
And do you know the secret answer?
I'm not sure.
It's Al Dagi.
Oh, yes.
The comedian.
Yeah.
He pokes fun at science.
Yes.
And
he's fun to watch.
Particularly if you speak Arabic. But that is the program that took them from 0 to 90 miles an hour in a week. So a year ago, I mean, the first year of their existence, bumping along, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, his show is canceled in Egypt on television.
Mm-hmm.
They say, fine, relaunch it here on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. And the rest is history. And they now have an audience that is theirs, that they can then communicate with, introduce other shows, provide other information. Oh, by the way, we also have courses, But the point is that talking about yourself, hi, I'm an educational institution, I've got these courses, was a snooze.
Right.
Hi, I've got a comedian who pokes fun at science. And, oh, by the way, we happen to be an institute that offers courses. Putting your audience first is the recipe for success. That was my message.
Yeah, and I've seen this. We'll just go ahead and finish this section.
Oh, well, damn.
Yeah, so I've seen this happen more and more, and this is... I think this is the advice for this new era of social media. And by new, I mean probably within the last 5 years, is you can't rely on your organic reach in social. They want you to pay to reach audiences. And so you're not portable. You can't take what you've built on one platform and move it to another. And so really the solution then becomes build your own community. And then use social media to populate that new community where, so for me, the website, I focus people on the website and I use social to drive people to the site. Same with the podcast. That's my community. It's my destination. And the listeners I get are mine. I think one of the greatest examples is during the pandemic, there was already a YouTube channel that was doing well in the yoga community, Yoga with Adrian. But once the pandemic hit, searches for yoga, fitness, and everything just went crazy. It exploded in popularity. Now, here's the thing. She has a YouTube channel, and it's her main social channel to expand her audience. While during the video, she encourages comments and subscriptions, but she directs people to the website. And on the website, you can get branded clothing and yoga equipment. Mm-hmm. You can sign up for the newsletter, but you can also join her community on an app. And it's estimated that this membership-based app drives more revenue than her YouTube channel, which has over 10 million subscribers. So she's created her own community on her own platform, and now she's moved people from being a passive subscriber on YouTube to a paying community member. And now she can do whatever she wants. She's not subject to the policies, the algorithm changes, anything that will affect her monetization of her app. And she uses YouTube now to build her audience and develop her own community independently. That, I think, this is what's going to distinguish companies moving forward in the next decade with social media.
Strange as this sounds, and this is coming from a Wolverine, I find myself agreeing with a Buckeye. Which means I need to go back and check my assumptions, because if we're in agreement, we're missing something.
I think we're in agreement a lot more than we're in disagreement here.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, okay. As long as we can disagree one day a year during a football game, then I think we've got the right parameters.
You've got it, Greg. Hey, we certainly didn't touch on everything, but, we might do a follow-up and covers ties in measurement. Oh, measurement. Oh, my goodness, Greg. Yeah,
well, measurement,
we'll have to get back
together. The article that I wrote on measurement, I said, here are the 30 things you need to measure in social media marketing. I'm not even going to touch on all 30 of them, because you know what? I'd fall asleep halfway through.
Absolutely. But here's the key. You can buy the book, and the book is going to be, Greg, do we have what's the official, it's like the OMCA guide?
Oh, no. It's digital marketing Fundamentals
Digital Marketing Fundamentals
is the title, and then the subtitle is the official OMCA guide.
The official OMCA guide to digital marketing fundamentals. For those of you who want to become OMCA certified, this is what's going to get you there. All the information in the book. We've got multiple authors, experts contributing content across a wide variety of subject areas: mobile, content marketing, paid search and paid media.
SEO.
That's half written on my other computer right now.
It's half written. Okay.
It's half written.
Well, the next time you want to do a podcast, maybe we could write the other half.
I think that would be ideal, Greg. It was a lot of fun just to cover the basics, and this was just a lot of fun. Always a pleasure having you on, and I love your stories, Greg.
I have stories. This is just the truth. Just the facts, man. Just the facts.
Well, anytime I need a Paul Revere reference to illuminate social media, you're first on my list.
Well, I can't help it. He's a local. I mean, Dr. Samuel Prescott, who finished Paul Revere's ride, not only did he reach Acton, where I live, not only did the Acton Minutemen turn out, they are the ones that turned the tide at the Concord Bridge. And the statue of the embattled farmer that's in Concord, which gets all the tourists, is Captain Isaac Davis of the Acton Minutemen. So I'm sorry, this is a local boy. I know this story. It's personal. We get none of the credit. It's the Battle of Lexington and Concord that was won by the Acton Minutemen.
All right, dear listener, where else can you learn about social media and the American Revolution and the actual facts behind Paul Revere's ride? Nowhere else but the Endless Coffee Cup, when Greg Jarboe has a chance to educate us and launch into I love it.
A tirade!
I love it. You can't get any respect here. You've got to set the record straight.
Oh, I never had respect. I gave up on that a long time ago.
Dear listener, thanks for hanging with us. And this will probably be a 2-part episode, so we'll be wrapping up part 2 here. Thanks for joining us on the Endless Coffee Cup.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.